All right. Well, first of all, thank you all for coming here today. And as we start our 95th season of baseball at Southern Miss, really appreciate the interest that you bring. Certainly, we feel like that our program is at a point right now where we're one of the top programs in the country. You know, recapping last year, our third regional that we've hosted at Southern Miss, our first one that we have won, our first super regional that we've hosted. So a lot of positive things and a lot of momentum has rolled from last year to this year. I think nothing's more evident in that in our season ticket sales. 2 years ago in 2021, we broke the record with 1,800 season tickets. Last year in 22, we went to 2,800. To date, now we're looking at 3,400. So the momentum, the excitement, the energy for Southern Miss baseball continues to grow, and we're very appreciative of the fan support that we have, and certainly looking forward to this 2023 campaign. It's going to be a challenge, but it's going to be like no other year. They're all challenges, and they all start over. And here, starting tomorrow, we start opening day of practice, and then 3 weeks later, we'll open up at 4 o'clock against Liberty here at the Peak.
Coach, you mentioned all that momentum and how the year went. Saw Mississippi State, Ole Miss. They've won. They've been the last 2 national champions. Are you kind of maybe embracing maybe some pressure, like, hey, this is going to be our year now, and kind of keep this Mississippi national championship?
Well, certainly, we hope it is our year. I've had both of those coaches reach out to me and say, hey, one year it was us, next year it was them. It's your year next year. So, but I'm sure they're going to be trying to get another year of national championship under their belt. But let me just say that speaks volumes about the state of Mississippi and college baseball and baseball as a whole. I mean, you look at those 2 programs winning national championships the last 2 years. You look at our program right there, getting beat by the national champion last year. I don't think that there's any other state that's more represented in the college baseball world than the state of Mississippi, and I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of that. Not only our position or our program here, but all the programs at all levels in the state.
Coach, seeing Ole Miss go on and win that College World Series, in what way did that validate just how close you guys were last year to going back to Omaha?
Well, we knew they were good. They were good at the beginning of the year. At one point they were ranked number 1 in the country, and they had the talent, but for whatever reason, they hit a little slump there. Couldn't ever win the one-run games, and after several of those, it's tough to recover from it. But just like all of us, we hope to get that new berth and that new opportunity with a invite to the regional, and that's one of 64 teams that starts over 0-0, and certainly they took advantage of it. We did too. It's just that we fell, to a team that was the best playing team in the country, and they showed it.
And in what way does last year kind of springboard you guys? I mean, hosting that first super regional ever. I mean, what kind of ways are you guys looking for new things to do this year to keep that going?
Well, certainly I think it starts with our players that are returning, that experience that excitement, experience that grind, everything that went into the resume of last year's season to get to that point, to be selected as one of the at-large bids there. And then, of course, being honored with our body of work by a regional host, an exciting regional here, and a finish beating LSU, and then obviously being able to host the Super Regional against Ole Miss and that atmosphere. But once again, falling short of what our goal is, and that's to go to the national tournament there in Omaha. And year 21, I felt like that momentum, playing so well, going to championship game against Ole Miss and their regional, kind of gave us that momentum into last year. So hopefully our finish and the way it ended up will give us that momentum going into this year.
Coach, you touched on your roster a little bit about the returners. What do you like about the makeup of your roster this year? Do you feel like you addressed any needs, seeing how last year finished?
Well, we returned, I think, 19 players off from last year. It was actually 20, but Chandler Best, one of our left-handed pitchers, relievers, he's done for the year. He had UCL tear and Tommy John surgery in the fall, so we'll be without his services this year. So that knocks us down to 19 players that were on that team last year. Of those 19, 12 saw significant action a large part of that season. With that being said, we add 18 new guys. So there's a pretty good balance between returners and new guys, whether they're traditional guys out of high school or they're junior college transfers, or even a couple of portal guys that are graduate transfers. So I like the mix that we have. I certainly like what we return from last year's team, particularly on that position player side. We returned basically every position except for two, and those faces that held those positions. We returned a lot of pieces of the pitching staff. We did lose a lot of those guys. Some of them to portal, a couple to portal, but then majority of them, the 5 guys that were underclassmen that were all drafted and signed, certainly left us with a void that we had to really fill really quick.
Can you talk about, I guess more specifically, some of the position battles that you've got with, I guess, center and left field specifically?
Yeah, I think there's probably more of a battle in left field than there is center. I mean, Matt Etzel is, he's won the center field job. He's a junior college kid from Panola Junior College. Boy, really excited us in the fall. I think every coach will tell you, and probably every player, that is a really nice player. Will probably hit there and lead off, certainly at the top of the order. Big, strong, left-handed hitter. Plays the outfield just really easy. One of the best center fielders having played this fall that I've seen compared to what we've had in the past. He makes it look really easy, but a real talented player out there. Left field is going to see Reese Ewing and Tate Parker, go at it. We'll probably match up with the other, with the pitcher, what they're doing, lefty, righty, lefty sort of thing.
Second base as well?
Second base is ongoing. Losing McGillis created a void right there. And we've had that being battled for in the fall, and that will continue for the next 3 weeks.
Talk about those new faces on the pitching staff. How do you gauge their development from the fall to this point?
I thought they did pretty good in the fall, but I think one thing I've learned now going into 39 years, my 39th year of college coaching, whether it's at the junior college level or the 4-year level, you don't get too excited about the fall, and I say that just because there's one huge variable that changes from fall to spring, and that's attendance. All of a sudden there's that adrenaline factor that you can't pump into that development in the fall. You might have 100 people out here for a fall scrimmage, but all of a sudden on February 17th, you're going to have almost 5,000 people probably here. And that's a huge adjustment. Most everybody, I would think, that's coming new into this program has never experienced that between the white lines. They may have as a fan in attendance, but that's a totally different scenario than when you're between the white lines and that guy says play ball. So being able to control that, that anxiety that you might have or all of a sudden is created that you weren't able to really put in the mix of their development is an ongoing thing, and I think some guys handle it quicker than others. So, but I like the way our fall guys, our guys in the fall went. I thought our pitchers did a good job of throwing strikes. Obviously, we have a lot of confidence in Christian Ostrander, our pitching coach, to get those guys right. Last year was the best staff in 38 years that I've ever been a part of. As an assistant, as a head coach, I don't care. That was the most quality and the most depth of quality of a staff that I've ever seen in my tenure of coaching at this level. So, it's going to be hard to duplicate that, in all honesty. But certainly that's not what we're saying we can't. That's what we're trying to do.
Do you have any ideas who the weekend starters would be at this point?
I have some ideas, but it'll be a couple of weeks before we probably reveal that. I think obviously Tanner Hall, you can figure that one out. But I think some guys that are in the mix for that. Matt Adams, who really finished last year on a really strong note, has looked good this fall. Nico Mazza, young man, only had I think 6 1/3 innings last year, and unfortunately he was just held behind because of all the depth and quality that we had. We couldn't get him the time, and we pitched him early. But as a result of how those guys pitched in front of him, we just couldn't get him back out there. But he had a tremendous fall this fall on the mound. In our fall winter squads, what we try to do is we go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we try to take 6 guys 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, and 2 on Sunday. And these are our 6 kind of potentially what we think might be our starters. And we let them build that routine as that. And then, and we'll continue to do that starting tomorrow. We'll enter squad tomorrow. Unfortunately, we have rain on Sunday, so we're going to do Sunday's inter squad. We're going to move it into with Saturday and do a little bit longer. But it's still going to be those same guys that are going to have that opportunity to possibly be the starters for us. Billy Odom, a kid from Eastern Connecticut. He's a Division III pitcher. Certainly it's a different level that he's coming to, but he was one of those guys that we had in there. Will Armistead, kid from Itawamba, a Mississippi Junior College kid, was a guy that we had in there. So there's been some pretty good prospects for that, but we'll continue to evaluate them and put them in those situations to see if it plays out.
Coach, what went into Peto's breakout season, and what do you expect out of him this year?
Hard work. You know, I'll tell you, the kid redshirted his first year. He had a lot of swing and miss in his bat. Went off that summer, got some reps in, got some at-bats, live at-bats in college, or in the college league that he played in. Came back that last fall, really didn't have a very good fall again, to be honest with you. After that first weekend last year, I kind of moved him to the outfield. I said, well, I'm going to see what he can do. And, you know, as you see a lot of stories go, he really never gave that position back up. You know, there was a time when Montenegro got hurt that we had to lead Peto off, you know, and at one time we were 18 for 18 as a leadoff hitter with him. And when Montenegro got back, I didn't put him in that leadoff spot because of that statistic. I'm like, you know, pretty good with him at the top of the order. He takes pitches and does well, so he works every day. I mean, he's a long list of guys that put in that extra work, but I can't tell you, I'm usually the last one to leave here from the staff every evening, and he may be down there hitting as Etzel, Lynch, and several others, but you can bet that Carson Peto is going to be putting in that extra work and what it takes. So it's just hard work.
Coach, a lot of experience, obviously returning for your 1 through 9. You had a really nice piece in Etzel of that lineup in the lead-up spot. Kind of speak to your expectations offensively for this group and your ability to maybe move guys, run the bases, and power and things of that nature.
Yeah, I think we've got some depth this year on the position player side, you know, that we haven't had in prior years. I think pretty much what we ended the year, those faces that are at those positions, that's what you're going to see. I mean, they were pretty good last year, and, you know, I expect them to be better this year for it. And, you know, you got Sargent at first base. Second base is ongoing for the competition there. You got Dickerson at short, which I might add, he is going to pitch for us this year on the back end. And when that happens, Creek Robertson is our guy that will step right in for him defensively. We won't miss a beat with Creek defensively there. So, but Dick, you know, he'll play the shortstop position for us. Lynch at third, Blake Johnson and Montenegro and Graham Crawford. A new guy will be behind the plate, but Blake will, you know, he's had the majority of the time there. But, you know, I want to tip my hat to Rodrigo last year when Blake got hurt in the 5th game of the year and breaks his handmate bone. We only have 2 catchers. Now that put us down to 1 with Rodrigo, and he catches the next 21 games before Johnson finally got back in the lineup against Charlotte. So, you know, that was an MVP performance, because if we would have got hurt at that position with Montenegro, I really don't know what we would have done. Sargent has the experience of catching, but I've been told that Sargent can't hit when he catches. So I don't know why, but anyway, so we didn't want to go there because he's a big piece of what we have offensively. In right field, Peto will be there. At center, Etzel, as we talked about, the competition in left with Ewing and Tate Parker. Obviously, Slade Wilkes returns. He'll be a presence there in the DH spot, as we have some other guys as well that could fill in there as well.
What are you hoping to get out of maybe some of your young pitchers, guys coming in, you know, freshmen, guy like Nick Monastir?
Yeah.
What are you looking for those guys? Like you say, you talking about that depth last year.
Yeah.
What are you hoping those young
Well,
guys
you know, they're freshmen, and it's not that freshmen don't contribute on the Division I level. I don't redshirt many guys anymore. I don't really think a lot of people do. You know, it seems like that there's a lot more freshmen that are contributing as freshmen than there ever has been. Some of those guys you just mentioned, Nick Monastery, he's 6A Player of the Year. He was a Mississippi Gatorade Player of the Year, I believe, as a shortstop and a pitcher. I really feel his presence is going to be felt more on the mound than it will be in the position as a position player. He's got an electric arm. He's got real pitchability, as does J.B. Middleton. Middleton has been very, very exciting to watch this past fall. He's up to 96, really good breaking ball. Holds a great presence on the mound, one that's much older than his age appears. So, those two guys have a lot that they can bring to the table for us.
Coach, you mentioned Matthew Metz, so I wonder if you could go into more depth about just his ability at the plate, and maybe if there's a guy that he compares to that has been here in the past. Can you sort of describe just his all-around game?
Yeah, I would say that probably a 4-tool player. Probably the one tool that's not above average or excellent that would create a 5-tool would be probably arm strength. It's not that it's not a bad arm, but it's a very playable arm. We've had greater arms than that before in there, but he's got speed, he's got power. Especially gap power. I think he's going to surprise you and hit a little bit more home runs, but he's going to hit a bunch of doubles just because he's quick out of the box. He can really run. He hits from the left side, and I think he's going to hit for an average. He's got one of the best strike zone awarenesses I think that we've seen in a long time. He just spits on a lot of pitches that a lot of people get themselves out on. So a relentless worker. He's here every night. Has been hitting after everybody's left. As a matter of fact, I told him the other night before I left, I said, don't be afraid, turn the lights on. That's why we got those lights. And he went over there and switched them on. So, really exciting player that I think is going to be a big impact for us.
Coach, speaking of guys that can hit for average, a guy like Tate Parker comes in, you can expect to realistically hit for 300 with power. What does he do for the lineup?
Well, I don't know if you can expect that, in all honesty. I think, and I spoke to a club last night, there's not a lot of clubs that hit 300 anymore. Now, why is that? I have my own opinion. I think a lot of it has to do, not everybody out there is throwing 93 to 96 miles an hour. And that has a lot to do with it. I can assure you. It has a lot to do with it on the big league level as well. So, there's some other factors that I think kids are learning that, I think is, we talk about launch angle and all that. And I've got my own philosophy about that, but their swing path is in and out of the zone too quick, and they have to get started. They don't want to get beat by a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, so they get out there early, and now it's a breaking ball. So that velocity certainly can mess you up. But a guy like Tate Parker, he's had some really good at bats for us this fall. But I will tell you this. As every junior college kid that comes in here, or every high school kid that comes in here, they find one thing or two things are much different than where they just came from. The speed of the game, the overall speed of the game, whether it's on the mound, whether it's people being able to run balls down the outfield. The other thing is that the field here and at our level is much bigger than the fields they just came from. I've seen a lot of them hit pop-ups that they thought it was gone, and they were just kind of coming around first base slapping their head like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that ball didn't leave the yard. But where they came from, they did. They were shorter parks. But having said that, with time, the good ones continue to adjust. They continue to get stronger. In our program, we feel like the development and our strength and conditioning gives that edge as well. We all have that development philosophy for one reason, and that's to help kids continue to develop and get better and get bigger and get stronger, so that those factors kind of wean themselves out.
Coach, the two captains this year, Danny Lynch and Justin Storm, can you touch on their impact not only on the field but in the locker room as well?
Well, first of all, our team got that right. When they voted those two 100%, they got that right because they are two captains. Lynch was a captain with us last year. Justin, this is his first year. But everything that makes up that captain, I think the variables, the characteristics that you're looking for is not necessarily just great players on the field. It's the ability to move out front. It's the ability in hard times to try to pick people up to make better times. it's the model, it's the image that everybody wants to be that not everybody is. You know, the work ethic, the way they go about their work, the way that they encourage their teammate, the way they encourage the guy that's trying to take the position from them. You know, I think all those things play in to that captain and being selected that, and certainly those guys are most deserving of that.
Scott, what's your take on the schedule as well as being in the Sun Belt?
Well, schedule's the hardest we've ever put together, I feel like, in all honesty. All those teams are really good programs. You know, and we do that by design. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. You know, the longer you stay in it, the more you have to build a resume for that committee to not give a reason to not include you at the end. If you don't, if you don't make that tough on yourself, and your players know if it's not tough. I want it tough. I want them to understand that every game is an opportunity to win. It's not the opponent that we're playing, but it's the game we're playing. But on my end, I'm trying to schedule that good opponent to help build that RPI. So certainly I think this is going to be a schedule, if we do our part and put in the wins like we need to. I think this schedule speaks for itself and will take care of itself. As far as the Sun Belt, I think the Sun Belt just got a lot better with adding Southern Miss, Old Dominion, James Madison. We'll see how Marshall, you know, they've made an investment and a commitment to their baseball program. I think they're building a $22 million facility, and all honesty, they need to. You know, they've been playing off campus for ever since 2004, whenever they came in the league. You know, they're always a headache to go play, and it's not the coach's fault. It's not the players' fault at Marshall. They do the best they can, but now that they've made a commitment to make our league better, and that's been the whole thing. You know, with no facility, you're kind of taking the league down on the back end. So with that commitment, that's going to make even the Sun Belt even better. My challenge going into the Sun Belt is trying to find midweek games. We just took away 3 midweek games from South Alabama that we've played the last 2 years, 3 in the midweek. On any given year in the midweek, we play Troy, Monroe, and Lafayette. So those are no longer possibilities. Those are all weekend games. So my challenge is to try to find midweek games. And geographically, everything that I can find is to the north of us, since we're the southernmost you could get as far as in our state, Division I. So that's kind of one reason why we're playing all 4 non-conference weekends at home this year, to try to buy those 3, because we try to get at 30 home games. We have 31 this year, and that was a decision to play 4 at home instead of 3 at home and 1 on the road. Ideally, I'd like to play one of those 4 on the road. That just gets us ready for conference and when we do go on the road.
2 more.
When we see a change in team dynamics from last year, the strong suit of the team was the bullpen. But we see a change in Southern Miss being more of an offensive team this year, or will it be more dynamic or balanced, or trying to find the balance between the 2?
Well, I hope all of that. You know, honestly, I hope we're more offensive. You know, I think we ended up hitting 278 last year as a team. I know our home runs were an 82 that we hit. Our power numbers were there. Maybe it was a little bit inconsistent. You know, obviously our pitching staff was very consistent last year, from the starters to our bullpen to the back end of the game. You know, we had a lot of depth there. You know, I would like to see and hope we would score a little more runs this year, just given the experience that we bring back. But on the same hand, we don't stop working on the defensive side and the pitching side, trying to put those pieces together, that puzzle that's going to allow us to win. I hope it's a balance. I hope we have good pitching, good defense, and I hope we have good offense. You do that, obviously, you know what's going to happen. You're going to win a lot of games.
Last one.
Coach, just speaking to the fact there's been 4 coaches here, you know, in the span of 60-something years, how rare is that, and what does that say about the tradition and just Southern Miss as a whole? Because that doesn't happen in a lot of schools.
No, it really doesn't. You know, and I'm proud and honored and blessed, however you want to say it, to be one of those 4 coaches that you mentioned: Pete Taylor, Hill Denson, Corky Palmer, and myself. I think that they're all connected. You know, Pete and Hill were together. I think Cork and Hill were together. Cork and me were together. I mean, so there's always that connection. People have asked me before, what is the success? Why has Southern Miss been successful? And I think number one is because we have avoided change. We've had people in place that have been able to be successful, but we have avoided the learning curve of always getting another coach. We have brought people in, or people have inherited the program that know about the program. I think that's very, very important. So the learning curve that you have from changing, whether it's head coach to now assistants, what we've had in place is we've had a tremendous ability to have our players also be coaches because they know the system. Example, Danny Lynch. Danny Lynch starts his 5th year here, or 6th? I don't.
6th, I think.
COVID's got me so messed up. Danny Lynch is like a coach for us on the field. He knows exactly, nothing's changed from year to year. Nothing's changed in my signs. Nothing's changed in our bunt defenses. Nothing's changed in our cut and relays, our communication. Nothing has changed. So there's never been a learning curve. And those players that have been in the system, they have it down pat, and they make sure that those younger kids and new people understand what it is too. So that is huge. I think anytime you have change at the top, then you have that learning curve. I think there was a time in football over here where one of our quarterbacks, I don't know if it was Mullins or who it was, he had 4 offensive coordinators in 4 years. I mean, how tough is that? You know, just trying to learn a whole new system over and over again. So certainly the consistency of being able to go out and be successful and avoid change and tough decisions has enabled us to be successful, in all honesty. You know, last year, just in closing, last year, I think what sums up Southern Miss Bay, we've been a top 20 program for quite a while, top 25. We've been a top 20 in attendance forever. You know, the vision that Hill Denson saw in 1986, everybody laughed at. You know, what we are seeing today is what Hill saw in 1986. And I can't stress that enough. As I look out there in that roost right now and I see those pine trees, he planted every one of those pine trees. And then after he planted them, he went through there with his assistants and had them set up there in that roost and pull the ones that were going to eventually block the view. So the vision that he had, Coach Palmer took and expanded on it with the suites, the press box that we're in, some of the stands. You know, those things are ongoing. But it was that vision that has brought us here today. Last year we had 39 home games. We were ranked 13th in the country in home attendance last year out of 304 Division I baseball programs. 13th, with over 140,000 fans coming to Pete Taylor Park. You know, I hope to exceed that this year with another successful season, but we know the challenges are ahead of us.
Coach, thank you.
All right.